This time I'll make you welcome and call the official meeting of the August session of the Hardy County Commission to order at this time. First on our agenda this morning is Mr. Paul Lewis, Director of Hardy County OEM and 911. Director Lewis.
Paul Lewis, Director, Office of Emergency Management, 911 from Hardy County. Monthly report for the month of July of activities and stuff for us under 911. Still waiting on the state to give me my SHGP grant for the tower of $480,000. I'm still trying to get some contact in the state, but I guess I almost tied up last week with the Boy Scout Jamboree and stuff, so I'll try to make some calls today and see if I can get an answer on that, where it's at and things. Had a meeting on Friday last week with the contractor for the tower. They should be starting this week with drilling and setting the piers in for the legs of the tower. It's on a pad for the building. It's already been ordered. And also setting an electric panel box thing for them to run the electric line from down at 259 up to the tower site. Made contact with 2 cell companies. One of them, I believe, is interested. I don't think US Cellular is there with T-Mobile right now, and I haven't made contact with AT&T yet. Call volume for the month of July, we had 714 calls come into the center. Law enforcement had the following calls: Department of Natural Resources 8 calls, Hardy County Sheriff's Office 302 calls, Moorefield Police Department 222, and the West Virginia State Police handled 47 calls. On the EMS side, West Hardy Ambulance Service had 124 calls, the HCEAA had 93 calls, and Wardensville Rescue had 26 calls on that. And then on the Office of Emergency Management, Fire Department's King Valley had 6 calls, Matthias had 28 calls, and Moorefield Fire Department had 12 calls on that. That's backwards. That 28 should be on Moorefield side. I think I messed that up when I said that. Department Highway, we gave them 15 calls for various problems, mostly with trees and stuff down the road and stuff during the storms and stuff. Office of Emergency Management and Grants submitted all the paperwork for the 2021 EMPG grant for review. I am waiting on the state to send us the final paperwork. They haven't done anything on those so far, even I've got 3 of those down there for review. They should be, and they have not sent the paperwork for the 2022 MPG. Submitted the SHS grants, and they're still down there. And we have not heard anything on the LEPC grants and what they're releasing on that. I did submit baseline report that's required now for the LEPC, and they'll review that before they release, I guess, the grants. We meet today, the LEPC does, at 1 o'clock, the Moorefield Fire Department. The OEM directors have their next training exercise on September 6th in Augusta at the Hope Christian Church for the region. Statewide OEM conference will be sometime in October in Flatwoods, and then release the information and stuff on that. And that's my report, unless you've got some questions on that. I don't know if you want me to go ahead or if we want to go. Yes.
Yeah, probably we can go ahead and do the emergency operations plan, but I did want to ask you something on this 180,000. So, is there anything that needs to be done on that?
I don't know. It's in the governor's office, I guess. Last I heard, it went from the governor's office back to the Office of Emergency Management. They made some changes.
Someone really needs to be called until it happens, right?
Yes. I thought Wendy was going to give me a contact. On that. You know,
you say we have 302 calls, 202. I couldn't hear you.
302.
That's what I thought. Seemed like they've been real busy this month.
Oh, is that number number for June up or down or about the
It's
same?
up
as usual?
versus what it was last month, it was way down last month. And maybe because more people are running around heat and stuff, I don't know, that's why the ambulance calls are up, I think. More.
I heard on the
calls.
news, I guess one of the stations it was on, I wasn't sitting in front of the TV, but I heard that June may have been on record as the hottest month on record. July, the hottest month on record. And do we have any data to support that for here? Or?
We've been running between 90 some degrees to 100, probably about 98 and through that. But then that's,
Is that a record?
I don't know if there's not, I know when I was growing up, we had days 100 and something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to know, how it compares historically.
It's a different heat though than when we were younger.
Younger, right.
I mean, it's different.
Dry.
It's
Air and
very
stuff.
dry. It's extremely dry.
Well, we might be a little different.
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
I might be able to pull some of that data from month of June on my weather thing.
I know either July 2nd or 3rd broke the record for the hottest day on Earth, average. And then it broke it again 2 days later on Earth.
And our air quality has got to be, for the month of July, it's got to be just absolutely the most horrible.
So out with all the smoke and stuff that's been coming through. And stuff, yeah. And I guess as far as they're still going on, so we'll probably get more.
I just wondered if maybe the numbers of medically related calls might be related to the heat.
Most of the calls we get is
Air
breathing.
quality.
Yeah.
And there for a while, it was pretty bad.
I think we should make calls to try to check on this for 480,000. It's like, that's just sitting there, they're not moving.
Right. Yeah, they haven't been moving on a lot of stuff for some reason.
That's true. That's very true.
Of course, Secretary of the Office of Emergency Management retired, so they just put a new person in there last week.
Any other questions for Paul?
Except he's going to go into the,
All right, I was gonna say, the next thing we've got, since Paul's on the hot seat, the emergency operations plan.
Yeah, I gave you a copy of the last meeting on the 2023 changes to the basic plan for the EOP. I did give Greg a copy of the EOP on thumb drive, because like I said, it's about 4 or 5 inches thick. It's got all the EOPs on it for y'all to look at. That is currently being revised and updated to what they're on in the new standards of the ESF standards and stuff on it.
Other than a couple of the typos that we talked
I
about
see one
last
there now.
time.
you're the chief executive official, correct? You're the chief executive official. Because, reading through
Right.
the terminology when I was reading through the report. Will these meetings come up, test the plan, like I read through? So there's a part, there's part 7 and part B, an exercise designed to test the plan.
Yeah, that's what we're doing in September the 6th.
Every September the 6th, okay.
If anybody's free, sometimes we do get some county commissioners from some of the other counties set in on that. From certain counties. We'll start around 9 that morning and it'll go probably to 2 to 3 in the afternoon.
Okay.
We actually been doing that for years.
Center?
No, that'll be down at the Augusta, at
That'll be
the
at
Hope
Augusta.
Christian Church, yes.
We've been doing that for years, Commissioner.
Okay, okay.
We have DEP actually works it up
Okay,
and
okay.
stuff, and it usually has a hazmat aspect to it.
And then Homeland Security, what's that one we participated in?
That's part of their
You know what I'm
involvement.
talking about?
And they do one every year too
Yeah.
on it. Plus, I'll get a copy of the one that the Department of Ag just did. That's technically part of the exercise programs.
We just completed that, National Veterinary Stockpile Readiness
Okay.
exercise, and, county commission was involved with that.
Okay, okay. What about this, FEMA local elected and appointed officials guide? Reading through that. Is there, will that, one of those meetings be to, schedule a meeting and run the processes?
I don't think they've been having those lately ever since COVID started.
They haven't had that. That could be something. That could be
Right.
something.
Yeah.
I just thought about that as I was reading through it.
You want us to go ahead and
You
entertain a
could-
motion to approve this?
Yes, and then
plan
I'll,
presented with the
changes.
changes.
Yeah, see the one there.
Entertain that motion.
I'll make
Second.
All right, it's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. 3 ayes, the ayes have it, motion carries. Thank you, Paul. Derek, don't sit down. You're next up.
That was excellent timing. I figured it'd sound like it.
Good.
stand outside the door.
How was it?
Thank you, sir.
How are you over there? We changed up our letterhead a little bit.
Yeah, you
like
did.
it or-
You like the old letter box.
Well,
Letter footer instead of letter
well, I'm trying to. Well, I'm thinking about moving it up to the top too. All right, Derek Alt, Director for the Ambulance Authority. Following is an update for the, our monthly update for the HCAA. So total expenses for the month of July, $130,989.05. We had annual payments last month, so, we pay our property insurance, all that, once a year. Total revenues for the month, $108,413.18. So that includes income from the HCC fee, which is $65,000. Income from services, $43,024.47, and then other incomes, $388.71. As far as vehicles go, 371, 372, 373, and 376, they're all in service with nothing to report. 383, it is in service with nothing to report, and the Serve and Argo is also in service with nothing to report. Building and grounds, the bunk room that we discussed, we did add it. It is complete and in service. The exterior lights have been replaced, and then we did send a letter to EA Halls from the board advising them that we would be increasing the rent per square foot effective November 2023.
And that was as agreed to, right? That was previously agreed to, right?
What do you mean?
The rental agreement, there was, certain time that we allowed them to recoup some
Yeah.
of their investment.
Well, oh yeah, so that's why it was
And
November.
then the rent was gonna go back to the previously.
Well, so in the contract, it was set at a certain amount, which I believe ended up being 72 cents. Yeah, about 72 cents a square foot.
Yeah.
Yeah, once that's satisfied, which would be November,
Right.
then that's whenever it was effective.
Go back to the originally agreed upon rate.
Well, we're increasing. it.
Yeah, which would be the increase, right?
Yes. Have not heard back from them, so I sent that letter. They have a couple months to respond. As far as all the county-owned equipment, everything's in service as far as we know. And additional comments, so discussions are currently in the process with Wardensville Volunteer Rescue Squad about how we can work together to try to better the services, EMS services in and around the Wardensville area. So we'll continue to give you some updates as that process unfolds. In talking with them, they may reach out to you all about a couple questions. I know we have a board meeting next week, so we're going to try to get everything finalized with that. We're looking to find a more stabilized service in the area. So that, that could be a multitude of things. One of the ideas would be for the ambulance authority to move their third person into the Wardensville area to possibly supplement volunteer staffing with Company One. So there's a lot of options on the table. So we're hashing it out and let you know as it goes. And we are still waiting for the auditor's office to grant contract approvals, so we can move on to the next step with our biannual state audits. And just for the record, we are on a biannual schedule, so we don't get them every year. I mean, we get them every year, but they only do them every other year. And that would be all that I have.
Any other questions for Eric? Thank you for what you do.
Thank you all.
Appreciate you.
Have a good day.
Yes, indeed. Thank you.
Be a little early next time.
I do my best. That was early compared.
Next, we have Mr. Bill Hours, Hardy County Health Department.
I'm good. I mean, I don't have a whole lot to say. COVID is still out there. We did have an outbreak at a local facility, and we are seeing some latent TB in the community. Besides that, I'll answer any questions you've got.
You had an outbreak of COVID, right?
Yes.
We have latent TB as well. Okay.
Yeah, I thought about that day before yesterday as folks were bringing exhibits into the fair. I said, boy, this would be a great opportunity for
What people don't understand about latent TB is it can become active. And if I can't force people to get treated. So if they decide not to get treated, it becomes active, then we could have a community issue. Right now, cooperation's been pretty good. So we're keeping an eye on it. And we are still giving COVID boosters and kind of holding out. Rumor has it there'll be something different coming out in the fall, maybe. So we'll hit COVID again when we hit flu shots.
You know, last month we talked about a new tick. Well, that longhorn tick was the one that I think was being referenced in that, and it's been here for 3 to 5 years, and but it's making itself known in the livestock industry. Pretty prevalent in a few areas in the state this year, and that's kind of what was there. But other, tick-borne diseases that are there, Lyme, Rocky Mountain, anaplasmosis.
All kinds.
Yeah. So, yeah, that was it's a longhorn tick. And,
I think it's probably still animal bites.
yeah.
It's crazy. I mean, I don't even know how to address it anymore. I've been doing this 24 years, and it's the damnedest thing I ever seen.
Rabies. Anything with the hot weather, or up, down, about the same.
Actually, we've gotten pretty lucky because the samples I've been sending off have come back negative, thank goodness. But I got a lot of people getting rabies shots. I had a dog bite at the 7-Eleven in Wardensville.
Is that from a stray animal?
My report didn't say who the animal was. This woman was walking her dog, and I guess that other dog came from somewhere and went to attack it and ended up biting her.
Yeah. Now we are having a meeting today, that will be directly addressing that. For sure. So
Well, I mean, there's so
not
many
necessarily
issues.
bites, but
Ride out Brighton Park about 6 o'clock in the evening, and you'll see somebody feeding 150 cats out there. That's not good. You'll see people everybody's offering cats and dogs to give away, so on and so forth. The problem is if they are feral, the mother could have rabies and it could be passed down. I mean, I am just highly concerned that somebody in Hardy County is going to die of rabies. I mean,
what we talked about is we are having a meeting today to try to move forward on some things with that, to address it.
any help, because I'm sure you get overwhelmed too, because you're the official animal control officer, but
In between feral cats running around, dogs that's half starved to death, horses just drive us crazy.
I mean, we just don't, his office and my office, and you could probably give us 15 more people, and we still couldn't keep up. But besides that, I'm looking forward to you all releasing some exciting news soon.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
We might have a little time for an update on that a little later on. Thank you, Bill.
You're welcome.
Sheriff Dawson.
I kind of like Bill didn't have that much to report this month. I've got Austin Riggleman and Jimmy Scheib, two school resource officers. They're in class right now getting training updated. Of course, Austin hadn't been there before, so he's getting all the training he needs for school resource officer. And Lieutenant Miller, he attended map reading, GPS reading and compass reading and tracking school in Summersville on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So what I've got from him, it seemed like it'd be a pretty useful thing as far as we have to go out and look for people and stuff in the woods, and look the way the maps is at the top of the maps, so we can read them with the training he's done will be very helpful. Let's see. Following the call, like you see, we've been really high. We had a lot of people on vacation. I knew it was going to be high because those guys have really been run ragged. And that doesn't reflect all the calls we've got either, because these are the 911 calls. We get a lot of calls that comes in by telephone, a lot of walking calls to, especially for investigations that ties the guys up. But they've been doing a really good job. And so we haven't had a lot of people off on vacation this month, so it's really run the guys here ragged that are here. And as far as applications go, we've only got one. We're in the same kind of dilemma. Yeah, same kind of dilemma the city and the state police are right now. There's just nobody applying. And even the one application we got, this boy lives in Pendleton County. No experience or anything he's ever done as a farmhand, so we'll probably test him and we'll probably have to advertise again. There's been some talk about maybe an ex-trooper, female trooper, that showed some interest in maybe coming over here. She's in Berkeley County right now. I'm hoping that she will come, because what I know about her, she's a good investigator. She'd be a good addition to the sheriff's office. We just got to wait and see. Warren Staggers has been in contact with her dad. I guess they're friends, and she showed an interest, want to know what we paid and all that. So hopefully maybe she'll come. And we finished the tax reconciliation this week, so it's all good. Everything turned out really good on that. But other than that, that's about all I've got. Task force hasn't gave me a report yet for July, so we'd like to have that to give you, but they haven't furnished me with that yet. But I do want to arrange a meeting around with you all to show you what they are working on, what we've done so far this year. Just trying to coordinate when they're not actually out actively working, when you all, around to be available. But pretty much that's about all I've got.
Just wanted to, Jonathan Adler just wanted to address this about what is happening with the tax credits.
Mm-hmm.
With people paying their taxes, because it's causing issues. So,
it's been a nightmare over there this week because of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we have signs up now, right?
Yeah.
Like I know Wendy there's a sign that's been put in the hall. I think there's one in your office as well.
Yeah, we put a big one on the door that pretty much tries to simplify and explain it. That flyer came out, it's kind of complicated to read, but we just tried to dumb it down so it'll be a little easier for them to understand.
Okay. Because what is happening, some people pay their taxes in full, but they're not going to receive that credit if they do that, because they should have waited till next year to do it so they get the credit. But the legislature is supposed to fix it. They're very aware of it. I called the state tax office yesterday because there were some complaints from people about the state tax office being rude to people when they called to find out, what the answer would be.
And they got through?
They did get through.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing right there.
So that was difficult.
So we can put that flyer up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna use some copies of that.
All right, thank you.
No, thanks so much. And Jonathan's going to speak more to it, and he might have more insight into, what the legislature will do. But I think they are very aware of it. The lady at the tax office told me they were, but I just requested that they stop being rude.
Let's see. I noticed they've been rude. I know that they've been rude to them, because after they're rude to them in Charleston, they call me.
Yes.
Hung up on a couple of people's calls down there, and luckily their complaints, we were able to straighten it out for them up here, and they didn't have to worry about Charleston doing it. But I guess they've been pretty nasty to some of them.
Kanawha County is giving a refund to Kanawha County Sheriff, because I heard that, but I don't know if it's true.
I haven't seen that. I don't think they can just.
I don't think they
do
did
that.
either.
No.
Someone told me they did, and I'm thinking, I don't think.
I can see the commissioner maybe mandating it. The sheriff wouldn't do that. The sheriff wouldn't do that on his own. I don't think.
Okay. Yeah, I got an audit earful yesterday.
I thought I read where they were trying to call a special session in August. And
There is a
they
special-
were going to add
This
this
week.
to the.
There are interim meetings already, but they're probably gonna add a special session to address this as well. That's what is being said.
It's probably gonna be Monday.
Any other questions for Sheriff?
Just in that application.
Yeah, I'll bring it
you know,
over here in a little bit.
I wanna see about that young man, cause he may be a good one.
Yeah, we need a reserve guy in here because
Okay.
a couple of them are getting pretty battered up, sick all the time. I don't think they'll be here that much longer, really, as far as working.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Stay
appreciate it.
safe.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Jim's not here, and we're gonna probably entertain this,
I'm right behind you.
more dog questions here in a little bit, but since we've, mentioned his name and he's sitting in the front row,
Yes.
we are very pleased to have with us and on our agenda for the first time, as I can remember, I know he comes through pretty regular, but the first time on our agenda to address us, Executive Director of the West Virginia Association of Counties, Jonathan Adler.
Mr. Workman, thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me here. We were together last week at the NACO conference, and I'm always open and welcome to come up anytime. And I think you know that. And call me anytime, 24/7. Like the sheriff, I work 24/7, so I'm always kind of on. So, but yeah, we'll just get right into that first issue that you mentioned here. It looks like it hasn't been called yet by the governor, but it looks like they're going to go into special session probably Monday. And originally, the big issue to talk about there had to do with the jails and the crisis going on in our jail system. They need more staff. They're down at least 1,000 employees, and they need to up that, and they need to increase the pay. I think the legislature has a plan now as to how they're going to tackle that. And that's what the special session call is going to be about, really solely about the jails. But since this has taken on steam with the personal property tax cut and how that's being implemented, it sounds like now they're also going to tackle that issue. The issue being that how people are supposed to pay their vehicle taxes. And it makes it very complicated when they pass that bill, House Bill 2526. What people are being required to do now, they just got their tax bill. You go in, they're told just pay half. Don't pay the full amount, just pay half right now. And then wait until after January 1st to pay your second half. Because the first half, because it's 2023, this doesn't go in until after the first of the year. Your first half payment can't get credited. Okay, so you won't get a tax credit for that. Your second half will once it's paid. So the second half of your payment this year and then fully next year will be remitted back to everybody in 2025. Okay, so your rebates, people's refunds aren't going to happen until 2025. And so that makes it very complicated, very difficult for people to understand. They're going to get frustrated. They hear they're getting tax cuts, but they're going to have to wait another year before they see that. So how they implemented this by just pushing people to pay half right now and then do the second half after the first year. A lot of people pay their full bill. So what the fix is going to be is trying to say anybody who's already done it or likes to pay their full amount, you will get credited for that second half even if you pay the full amount now before the end of the year. So that's how they'll go about this. I think the tax commissioner, the head of the property tax division, was probably put in a situation where he was going to just kind of have to administratively on his own make sure these people were credited. But probably by the law or whatever, that's probably not allowed. So you have to have that fix within the law to make sure that he can do that. So it's kind of one of those things where administrative fix to something that was legislatively unworkable. So. And going back to your point about tax too, I've heard that as well. I do want to defend them a little bit just by saying that just like our jail system, they're woefully understaffed. They are understaffed, they're underpaid, and they've got all this coming on. They've had issues now for several years. You talk to your assessor about the issues they've had. I mean, it's not easy. Doesn't mean they should be rude to everybody. They shouldn't be, and I've seen it firsthand too, experienced it. But they're trying their best right now, and they don't have any. They lost a lot of their experienced staff. They truly did. And I had a meeting, this is a couple of years ago now. I met with the tax commissioner and his staff, and I kind of walked in on a firing squad. Really, I didn't realize it at the time over another issue. But anyway, the first thing out of their mouth was the secretary's mouth was, Jonathan, you're hiring away all my best people. All the counties are hiring my best staff in tax, working for the counties because you can pay them better than I can. I can't pay them what you guys do. So there was part of attrition that way as well. So there are problems there as far as staffing of some of the state agencies and people where they're working and all that. So that's an issue, no doubt about it. So I did bring these. This was put out by the legislature. These flyers,
That's really good.
so people can see that. Last week, I know it really was taking on some steam in the media and stuff. I listen to Metro News a lot, and they were talking about it every day. That people weren't better informed about how to pay their taxes. So that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I knew Hobby Virtual wrote about it just yesterday.
Right. And we had during the convention that morning at NACO, the assessor from Mon County, Mark Music, was on Hobby talking about it directly from his standpoint, the assessors too. So we've been helping out on that end too, trying to make sure that
People know.
Yeah.
Sure people know. Yeah. Well, and so, in addition to that, I was just thinking about this with people knowing, they also have to pay attention to where information is being put out. We have these, but also, because when this person, when I was receiving an earful on it, I told him I put it up on my Facebook on July 17th. And so, but then he tells me, he doesn't use Facebook. Well, you do have to use media that's available to you, and if it has been put out and you're not using it, which by the way, thanks to our new PR person here, Peggy Moomaw, we do have a Hardy County Commission Facebook page. So please, everyone, check that out. Hardy County Commission of West Virginia. So please like the page, follow it. You'll have all the information up there, including the meeting today. But that's another part. It cuts both ways always, and you can't make someone, but if there's information available, they also have to, be looking for that information.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's not an easy thing. People got to look for it. And they got to want it.
They do.
And they need to believe it.
Well,
that's another. But yeah.
So do you anticipate any changes being made if they engage in this special session?
Yeah, it's my understanding that we're not going to be impacted. Counties aren't going to be impacted by any way. That they're going to hold us harmless. Our lobbyist yesterday was on the phone with I think deputy chair of the House Finance Committee. He was saying that they're looking to make this fix. There may be some how they do it as far as they put it in a bill or something to make it work right. But the counties will not be penalized and we won't be losing any more revenue or anything like that. It's going to be
something, Jonathan, because you follow this legislative process very closely. Like, could they have foreseen it? Because I was reading through the comments, and could this be something that was easily foreseen? And because the income taxes is on the calendar year, these property taxes is on the fiscal year, and like, could that have been foreseen? And
well, no, we talked about it. I mean, assessors could tell you firsthand. They saw this coming. They knew this was going to be. Gee, we're going to have to educate people about it. And we had a team early on in the spring, looking at this of assessors. We had a task force of about 5 or 6 assessors that were looking at this and saying, okay, how do we educate the public? Should we educate the public? Put out our own thing. I think from our standpoint was we had a good group that was, first of all, educating the other assessors, okay, as to what they needed to know about the bill, 25, 26, and how it was going to work. But in the end, we decided, too, that, we're not going to, recreate education materials and things like this that kind of puts the onus on us. We're the recipients of the problems. We're trying to make it work, but we'll direct people to the state tax department. And the state tax department has had some really good publications. It is complicated. It's complicated in trying to figure out, okay, what vehicles are part of this tax cut. Okay, is a trailer or camper. I don't think a camper is. Now, a trailer,
A boat trailer is.
a boat
right?
trailer is, right? But boat trailer is. So things like that. So it's very complicated as to what qualifies, and there's several different vehicles that do. ATVs do, motorcycles do, but the other things don't. So that kind of makes it, complicated and unwieldy as well. So we did that, but we decided in the end, you know what, we don't want to be hated on by the public and blamed by the public because the legislature in the state, they put this together. Now they're having to fix, at least as far as the payment goes and how it's done.
Yeah. It's an interesting process because we have this come up now. The danger that they could put that jail, they could take up all the oxygen in the room and the jails are put off again, which would be really bad. Because in addition to that, they were also supposed to be considering that EMS bill as part of this session. And that could be pushed to the side again as well.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up too. That was part of the briefing we had yesterday as well. That aside from jails, even if they don't do it this time, that EMS certainly, and we've talked about it already.
Yes.
That is going to be something that's a forefront. It's already a national issue. I mean, you heard it last week at the NACO meeting.
Yes.
It's national.
Yes.
So we have mostly volunteer fire in EMS West Virginia, or fire at least. There's Berkeley County has professional fire, but there's that dynamic going on between that. But how is the funding stream improved? And they had a bill last year. They had two bills actually, were kind of mirrors of each other, that both failed in the end. As far as what I think originally it was supposed to be focused just on volunteer firemen, but kind of got lost in the weeds. And I think that's definitely going to be part of the agenda.
Okay. Because Taze Valley, right? Taze Valley had their cutting service, fire service. I just saw in Putnam County.
Yeah, yeah. So those are really, I think, the big issues facing the counties right now. I think I'll get to a couple other issues, but I think another one that we need to be ready for, and you've talked about it already again today. I mean, you guys are, you've got all the major issues in front of you. But things I've been reading in the last couple months, and we've seen it now with the weather. We've talked about the weather. And unfortunately, you had the '85 flood here, so you know fully well what that's like. But I think disaster preparedness and what's going on, we're going to see more violent storms, more issues of disasters and things that are happening. So how does Hardy County prepare for that? FEMA does have a new, I think he started late last year, a dedicated official here in the state of West Virginia that is kind of help coordinate and doing some outreach right now. His name is Brian Farkas. Brian's been around for a while. You know Brian.
Yeah, he went from the conservation agency over to
Yeah.
emergency.
So Brian, we started some conversations back in May and June to talk about his focus is, and this has been talked about at NACO as well, the mission creep of FEMA that's been going on for quite a while because they've had a lot of disasters they've had to answer to in the last 20 years, especially. To go on the list of it, but anyway, they become more and more of the go-to agency for problems that happen, and so Brian's message, and really it's been happening at the national level too, is to say to local communities, hey, we can't be Santa Claus to everybody. We've got to pull back our horns a little bit and be more fiscally responsible too, and rein in a little bit. So what can local governments, not only state, but local county government and cities, what can they do on their own to help mitigate and prepare for disasters that they can do on their own without the help from the federal government coming in to do those things. And so I'm sure you are doing that and talked about that a lot. But that's going to be something that and it could be small fixes that aren't too expensive to do. So how do we focus on that? So that's something that I see on the horizon too. We need to be looked at more and be ready for as well because of what's going on with the climate and things like that. We see it. We certainly see it. What's that?
The resilience office.
Yeah, I mean that's part of it too. I've not reached out to the resiliency office myself, but yeah, that's all part of it. But we hope to. I want to have some kind of a day-long summit. I hope for county officials to hear from Brian, to hear from, let's say AEP. So they could be maybe a co-host sponsor of the meeting to talk about. We're always we always lose power, right, first thing off the bat. So they certainly are very well invested in the problem. So all those things to help you understand, what can be done at the local level that you can do to help you better prepare and just be more knowledgeable about the system and how it works and FEMA and all that. So that's the hope, but I haven't anything scheduled yet as far as doing that.
That's always it.
Well, it's just kind of gives you an example. It's on us, right?
Yeah. We've dealt with this for a number of years now, of course, from a number of different aspects. But a few years ago, just kind of as part of the natural stream bank erosion, a tree fell into the river, and we had a young man, young, when I say young, a child, that got trapped when the tree roots entangled him when his canoe went under and he drowned. And he's had several, and will have for the rest of his life, require assistance to survive. And so we continue to work in that area, and just recently we had another windstorm that came through, and Paul alluded to the numbers of trees that went down across the roads. But we had a tree, fully leaved tree, that fell across the river, leaving only about 10 foot of passage on the one end. But the channel was pulling everybody right into the leafy part of the tree that was in the river. So we went and saw it, and we called the conservation agency, and we said, should we let DNR know that they have an issue, since you, the conservation agency, and DNR are obviously the ones with the river power. They said, oh, Chapter 7 lets you go ahead and, by Article 13, enact whatever you need to do and pay for it.
Pay for it.
And that was it, because I was asking, where do we send the bill?
Yeah.
And so we had in the interest of safety, public safety, we had the tree removed, and we had another one removed that had fallen, and there are more that are going to fall. And so we're going to save ourselves the trouble of the call. We're just going to go ahead and call and have them removed, whether they need to put wheels in the river or not.
Part of the problem too is that
Right.
we're in Lost City when they had all that windstorm earlier this year. Those trees are still in the stream, and that's the problem. They had trees in the stream, but they never want to clear them out, and they won't let anybody else clear them out.
Exactly. It's a huge problem, because they won't allow us to do it, and there's no funding for us to do it. But then it needs done, but they're also not doing it. It's like,
Seems like bureaucratic.
it's a bureaucratic. Yeah, I
And
mean, we
there's
had,
no clear getting path either.
no,
We
there's
can't
not.
figure out like who all we're supposed to get.
I don't think they even know the clear path, because we had 6 agencies come out and meet us at the river, and it's, okay, each one has their process. You can't work through 6 agencies, because we want to say, well, we need to wait for this agency. I know it's an ongoing problem, but it really would be really great if we could get that.
I did,
Get it.
I think I told you, I did talk to someone who's on the Silver Jackets. That's
Okay.
FEMA is associated with that organization. They try to bring together all the agencies, and
Okay.
like Corps of Engineers, who representative I talked to, they're supposed to work on that kind of stuff. When I told them that issue, they were supposed to have a meeting a couple of weeks ago, but of course, I've not followed up yet.
Okay. That's good.
But we have lots of people that enjoy our rivers and the beauty of our natural resources, and we want them to be safe.
Yeah.
So we do what we have to do.
Yeah.
And we'll continue.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure. They can rely on you. They can rely on the county government.
We will certainly do our very best.
And we do have West Virginia representation, and adding to it when they go, which, that's going to be a good thing.
Right.
So,
Right. Absolutely.
we have, you have Greenbrier, we have Tammy Tencher on, and Greg Puckett on membership programs, and then on, what's the other one that Tammy's on? Can't remember right off the top of my head, but anyway, those are 2 very
Then Commissioner Sheehan was also appointed.
That's right.
to
So it
serve.
wasn't way too much. I would know, yes, and I'm really excited because that's the Environment, Energy, and Land Use
Yeah.
Committee.
You're vice chair of the energy.
And I'm vice chair of the Energy Subcommittee. So
No,
very
that's great.
excited about
No,
that.
that's great. That's great for us. Great for the state. So thank you. Thank you. The sheriff, I want to talk a little bit. The sheriff talked about now about trying to hire new deputies and stuff. There was a bill that passed last year, House Bill 2900. I'm sorry, I don't have a copy of it in front of me, but I'm sure you know about it. It's one that allows you to hire retirees back. I think the amount that's allowed is like $20,000, and of course they have to fall within compliance of retirement system and all that stuff. That's an issue that's I think it's gonna keep happening. You're gonna see more bills. Last month I was at the Prosecutors Institute meeting, their summer meeting, and I was approached by 2 different prosecutors asking me if I would help out with a bill for them. They're in need of assistant prosecutors in some of these counties. But he said $20,000 doesn't cut it, and they were looking at maybe 35,000. And I'm like, whatever you need, we can certainly help promote that and push that. So that's something that they're having to turn to retirees. We see it, state agencies, DHHR is relying on retirees too. There was part of the bill that spoke to that last year. So we're seeing more and more of that, which is disappointing in a lot of respects, but still the people who are there, they have knowledge and experience, and so we should be able to utilize that experience too. So that's what the thoughts behind that. A couple other issues to make you aware of too. Mon County Commissioner there has been talking about. He's been trying to tackle the issue up there, which they have in a lot of the cities, panhandling on the streets and things like that, which is part of the homelessness issue too. So how do you handle that? How do you get those people off the streets? But by the second half of that is, make sure they get the help and the services they need. So that's what the commissioner there, Commissioner Bloom, is trying to tackle that. I think here soon, if it could be today, I think they're going to try to enact that ordinance there and see how it goes. It's not an easy thing, not an easy fix, because it kind of runs into some constitutional amendment, First Amendment issues and things like that. And hopefully that's not much of a problem here, but I think in our other cities, that's something that talked about. It may be some kind of a bill that is promoted by the counties, if not the cities, at the legislature coming up. So that's something to be on the lookout for. Another one, I was just contacted yesterday by Commissioner Riggs in Ritchie County, and this has been his issue the past couple of years, is trying to increase the amount of rainy day funds that commissions can build and set aside.
Okay.
And so last year we passed a bill that took it from, I think, 30% up to 50%. Well, now he said, look, it should be open ended, whatever we can put into that, and not just be limited by a certain percentage. So he's talking with his delegates and senators up there in that part of the state to see about resurrecting another bill that just kind of gets open ended. And I think it's a very good thing for commissions and counties everywhere to be able to do that. So that's what he called me about. And finally, just I guess I've got 2 messages basically I always like to put across. And that is, one, to make sure that you're always building and maintaining relationships with your legislators. I mean, it's so key, and help them understand that even though they're different part of their state government level, that we're all in this together. They're working for us to help us do our jobs better and the services we provide. So make sure that you're building those relationships. You show them support and help them make those decisions, and that they're feeling that. But also just overall, just what I said earlier about unity and being unified. We can't always agree on every issue and things like that, but we should just keep our eyes on what the goals are and not be distracted by these ancillary issues that blow up on social media or wherever they are. That may be issues, but they're not paramount to what you're focused on. That we stay focused and unified on these things, so we're getting stuff done and not getting caught up in all this rigmarole outside. I mean, that's really my overall message. So.
We're very fortunate that we have a very good relationship with our delegate senators and talk frequently.
They're a good group. Yeah, they are a good group.
They are. Yeah. They're very responsive.
Yep, absolutely. No, I have nothing bad to say about that group here at all. I really don't. They're great people. They are. I like to tease Brian Ward a little but he looks like Santa Claus. He keeps going up here.
We enjoyed the trip to the National Association of Counties meeting. I think we all got a great deal of information that'll benefit us. Of course, we were talking before the meeting, we found out that West Virginia's leading the nation in preemptive legislation by the state legislatures to affect or at least lessen the power of local government. But that's another story for another day.
David attended that forum.
You know, I'm sorry I missed that one because that's been foremost in my mind because I was reading some articles leading up to that, saying things going on in Texas. So yeah, we're seeing that, and that's not a good thing. That's not a good thing. So self-reliance is
Well, it's something that we're seeing. Yeah, we're seeing it so clearly. That it kind of proves our point when we go to NACO and see that this is happening around the country. So.
yeah, it is. Right. Thank you for saying that.
Jonathan, thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
No,
Thank you. Nice to have you with us.
That was better than a visit to the dentist. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Sheriff. Really appreciate it.
Kind of keeping in that same vein, we're also pleased to have with us today Barbara Fortner, Senior Community Service and Employment Program information. Barbara?
Can I stand here? Or do I have
Well,
to
if
sit in the
you'd
hot
like to come over there to the hot seat, that'd be fine. Yeah, we want you on camera.
Oh, no. Are you leaving? Okay, my name is Barb Portner, and I am the director of the Senior Community Service Employment Program. And this is Vanessa. She's one of my participants in the program. She's going to give you some goodies information. What the CSEP program is, it is a federally funded training program through the Department of Labor. We work with citizens who are 55 or older, low income, unemployed, and if they qualify for the program, we put them into nonprofit organizations to get training to help prepare them to the goal is that they can find an unsubsidized job. They do get paid through my program, unfortunately, since it's through the Department of Labor and they set the minimum wage, they only get $8.75 an hour. They do about 15 hours a week. Sometimes that goes up toward the end of the year to use up budget money, of course. And so I'm just trying to get the word out into the 8 counties that I deal with. And I just thought I would start with each county commission because you know who your nonprofits are, you know who your citizens are, who may benefit from the program. Some examples, in Mineral County, I have participants at the senior center, at the nutrition site, which I know I have been contacted by your senior center here to get some people. I have some people at the county commission office, helping with paperwork and stuff there. I have some people at the airport authority in Grant County, the housing authority in Grant County, Berkeley County. I have people at food pantries and people at Harper's Ferry Park Association. So yeah, I'm just, like I said, trying to get the word out so I can try to get some people enrolled, benefit the communities that I work with. And I just wanted to give you a brief rundown of the program and ask your help to try to get the word out.
Right.
Yeah. Vanessa comes to us she moved from Berkeley County to Grant County, so I just scooped her right up, put her right in my office with me at Region 8. Yeah.
And your office is there,
Region 8, yeah. Yeah, and I'll give you some business cards here.
Yes, please.
I forgot to give those to her to pass out, and I like to fool with you. And here's some extra bags if, somebody else wants one, or, so if you know someone that would benefit, or an organization, or, Unfortunately, I am doing a presentation in a couple weeks at the Mineral County Ambulance Authority, and one of the questions that I called my higher ups and asked was,
could the person that I place there, if I find someone to go with them, could they be on like the fire trucks, the ambulances, whatever? And because my organization also pays the workers' comp, I can't do that. But they could help with paperwork. They could help with cleaning, whatever. So yeah. So I just thank you for giving me a few minutes to come and talk about the program, and hopefully we can get some people to help with your nonprofits in this county. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you. Any other questions for Barbara?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Oh, yeah.
Next, we have Melissa Scott, our planner. Some information on ordinance revisions and our comprehensive plan progress.
Well, first of all, let's talk about the comprehensive plan a little bit, since we're now televised, get the word out a little bit. We are working on the new comprehensive plan, 2030 comprehensive plan. Been working on it for over a year now. That is the plan that sets the goals for the county for planning and development, and it's ultimately will be 9 chapters. I have 7 chapters done now. The first draft of all of those are online, hardycounty.com, Planning Commission. Go to the comprehensive plan, and all of those drafts are out there. First drafts, early drafts. So still working on that. I'm down to the environment chapter. That's what I'm working on right now. But I keep getting distracted with things like we'll talk about here in just a second. But then the final chapter will be the land use chapter, and that'll roll it all together. Just want to continue to tell people to continue to pay attention to what's happening, come to meetings, give input. The way this will work is I'll get all the chapters finalized. The planning commission will approve all of those versions. They approve each version before it goes out online. We will finalize those, get them all done, and then the whole plan will go out for comment. We'll have multiple meetings on that. People will have time to comment on that final whole version. We'll have workshops, community meetings. I don't know what all we'll do, but we'll have a lot of opportunities for people to comment then. And then we'll take those comments, maybe rework some things. The planning commission will ultimately approve a version, and then you all will approve it, and then it will become our official plan.
Well, I was just thinking about what to ask you when the time came up for questions. Okay, so this is good. It's a good update. And when we complete that, like thinking about how we're going to get that out to people so they can make comment, because I really would like to see people be involved. Sometimes like that's one thing that I really worry about these revisions, and I've said it multiple times, is that people didn't come to that public hearing. Okay, we need to hear from people. Like if it's a very important thing that we just have to revise our regulation, people should show up and we should hear a lot of different voices. It would be my warning about changing a piece of regulation. But like getting this word out, thinking about how we can get the word out.
Facebook, now we have Facebook
I think we
page.
should. That would be who I would point to. But something on that, people need to be involved, because we can go into our Facebook friends, go into the Hardy County Commission, and invite our friends to like it, so people are involved. People need to do that type of thing. We have to do that personally or by ads so that it's out there. I'm okay with either one personally, but we have to, right now we have probably under 10 likes, so it's not going to get to many people right now, and we have to increase that.
Then there are dinosaurs out there, not to mention any names, that may not be as social media adept as others.
So, like, we need to. That's something sure we get the word out.
But I just want to clarify that this isn't regulation. I mean, I know you know that. This is not regulation. This is policy. This
Yes,
policy
yes.
guides the future regulation. So we
Yes.
need to be clear on that. And also, of those chapters that are online, the introduction chapter outlines the public input. And we had a lot of public input on this before I started writing. And so we had huge turnout for our survey. I have never seen so many people. We had 800 people
800,
take the survey, which is amazing for a community like this. So all of that information is in that intro chapter. So it talks about everything we did, all the meetings we held, and that input, and like summaries of that. So that's
Okay.
pretty important to know that it's already been that input into what I'm writing now.
Yeah.
So, and then in the end, we'll have another chance to go back and take another hit at it. People need to understand that this is kind of high level and it's vague, and it's what we want for the future. I mean, it's we can't get into too much detail and specific priorities. They're high level, and so we can't get hung up on revising details in this plan. We need to move on to the regulation, and that's when I would really like to see a lot of input from stakeholders on that, because the next step will be update the zoning. So as you all know, our zoning ordinance is pretty antiquated. I mean, it's been great for all these years, but there's just a lot of things that are happening now that we never couldn't foresee back then. So, and that leads me to our next topic, which is the revision that we had to make in the zoning ordinance to address some things. So,
Well, listen, one point on that. This is from the NACO meetings we went to. And one of the things, they created a task force that met over several months. And they produced some very, very good material. And this was on affordable housing.
oh, good.
But it speaks to exactly what you're talking about. So one of the recommendations, and this was coming out of that month, it's been over the course of this whole year, and it led up to the meeting, and that's when they produced
Oh, cool.
their
I'll have to
actual
look at
final
that, yeah.
reports. They're really good, and they actually drilled down to the county level. And actually, we're supposed to be able to pull it up. We have this on the agenda. We can pull this up now, but I just wanted to point out the number one thing that they produced for their best practices is land use, zoning, infrastructure, and community planning.
Good.
That's one of the first, evaluate current zoning plans and practices.
Great.
That's one of the first things that was produced by this task force in terms of the goal of affordable housing.
Great.
So that's just something
We're on course.
we're on
Here's
course.
We're on course.
Yes.
Like I say, I share Commissioner Sheetham's concern that we continue going forward and maintain as much public outreach as we can to get as much input as we can from all avenues, social media, and even those that are not on social media, find a way to reach out to them to get some input and thought, because there's a lot of thought out there, and a lot of our long-standing citizens in our community have some thoughts that I'm sure could benefit this process.
Well, and like the assessor's office, you guys put out signs, big signs in local communities when taxes or when a farm use exemption. It could be something we need to do, because you are right. Not everyone is going to get on Facebook and check that, but a sign, in a community, that could be something that the commission considers. Because we do need input on these things.
So we'll have to take a look at that, what you're talking about. Affordable housing is, it's a huge issue, and that's one of the chapters is housing. There's a lot of interesting stuff in there. One of our big issues is that short-term rentals are taking over, and people can't. People are buying homes sight unseen from Northern Virginia to rent them out. So people, it's a bidding war, and people can't afford to buy homes to live in. So, and this issue is related to that. So we are doing a zoning text amendment out of necessity, because we've had so many Board of Zoning Appeals hearings on this particular issue. I had to write some standards for them to go by while they're trying to approve these things and figure out what to do. So, do you want to move into that, or did you want to talk? Okay. So, you guys have had this, as we've talked about for the last couple months, but here's the here are the pages of the ordinance that we've changed. I emailed this to you. Had it on the 11th or whenever your special meeting was, but, so the planning commission approved, changes on, June 15th, I think it was. And then you all had a special meeting the 18th. That was July 18th. And that's when we talked about, those revisions, they're all in red. I just printed the pages of the ordinance that have revisions to them because the whole ordinance is really long. So there, you do have that in your email there. So the revisions that the planning commission recommended to you all, at that special meeting on the 18th, I made the revisions that you all suggested, which was to, address campgrounds that are basically farmers renting out lots on the river. So we can call these whatever you like. I called them seasonal campgrounds in my revisions. So this would be a new category of campgrounds. The primary thing the requirement to meet this is that the operation must be an accessory land use to active agricultural operation on the parcel where the campground is located. So, and accessory use is defined in our ordinance already. So that's the primary thing. It shall have no infrastructure except for roads that are designed to accommodate emergency vehicles. I didn't say specifically that they had to meet the subdivision guidelines of some of the other standards. So, and I guess that's 22 feet basically is what you all, the 18 traveled. We'll talk about that. There can be no visible evidence of the operation during off season. The season is between April 1st and December 31st. That accommodates hunting season. Looked up all the different seasons. April 1st to December 31st should be the time period when these operations can be in place. But the particular leases can be no less than 90 or no more than 180 days for the RVs, because 180 days, almost all of these that we're talking about are on the river. And the floodplain ordinance states that the campers can't stay there for more than 180 days. So we had to incorporate that. So that's the basic standards or the requirements to be a seasonal campground. And then see that second paragraph there is the standards. It's on the blue sheet. That's the changes. And the second section will be on page 59. The changes would be just the standards, which the road width must meet the width of the. I did say the subdivision ordinance there. They have to have a seasonal contract for portable toilet service, and they must have a plan if it's in the floodplain. They must have a plan for removal of those RVs in an emergency, which is something that I really wanted to see for a long, long time. I think that'd be a really good thing to also carry over to our hazard mitigation plan, because that's, as we all know, the campers float down the river every time we have a flood. So, and that's the basics of what you all wanted added, and so I added that in. I will present this to the planning commission tonight, and I email this out to you all the day of the meeting, but I didn't hear back as to whether you wanted to make any changes to it. But this is what I'll present to the planning commission tonight as your all's changes. They will have to approve those and have another public hearing before it comes back to you all again. So hopefully we can get that done in the next 30 days or so, which will require probably a special meeting for the public hearing for them. Or we could if you guys work with us and we come up with a version that you're both happy with, we can do a joint public hearing. Since we've already done one already, that would prevent us doing 3. We'd only have to do 2 total. So if you guys have any changes to that blue sheet, tell me before tonight so I can change the planning commission's. And these revisions are for, campgrounds and what we're calling multi-unit recreational dwelling areas, because we have people that are coming in building multiple shed kind of things and renting them out as Airbnbs. And because we don't have a law, most counties have a law that you can only have one residential or habitable structure on a parcel. We do not have that because we have a lot of farmers who have farm workers, and then they don't divide their property for their kids. So they build multiple houses, so we don't have that law. So it's come back to bite us. So we don't. People are putting multiple habitable structures of all qualities, shapes, and sizes and renting them out. Sometimes without septic, and Bill can attest to that. We've been struggling. So
Any questions or comments on what's been presented?
Just a question for you, because, the, um, non-traditional housing is going on in other places.
Yeah, right.
So there was a person, actually I sat right beside of her, she was a commissioner in Hawaii, and she got up and asked a question. There wasn't really an answer supplied to her. This was at one of the NACO forums, NACO conference forums. Really, there wasn't an answer because her question was a little bit different. She had people who were living, the term she used was under trees. So these were people living in a lot of different, ways that were non-traditional. And so she brought that up because her issue was they didn't have a voice. So they didn't have a voice at the table in terms of, anything that would affect them. And I think that's a kind of interesting thing, interesting dynamic in our nation right now as
right.
well.
Yeah, that's why we didn't get into, people living in single RVs. We do have that, and we have it. People sometimes putting them really close to people's houses. We didn't get into that. We stuck with two or more because that's usually means that they're renting them out. But there are ways to approve communities, like community of tiny houses. But when you have them all in one location like that, it's much easier to do, like in a town. Usually, it's in a town atmosphere, but like a tiny house, whole community,
Yeah, right.
those are needed. And trailer parks, the single wide trailer parks, we need those, and we need to enforce the standards on them because people have a really bad view of them. They don't want them next door, but we need trailer parks,
Well,
manufactured home parks.
yeah, yeah, and this is kind of going to the housing summit.
Yeah, jump
Part of the
ahead.
agenda.
Okay, it's
But
important.
we do have that on the agenda. It's part of this is going to lead to innovation. Okay, and that's where I just keep thinking about these revisions, and I'm like, it could, because we need innovations in housing. Like that's what, and we're going to be putting forth an idea on a housing summit. That's what we want.
Yeah.
That's one tangible takeaway we had. I mean, we can have a housing summit, host a housing summit, and that's a place to start because we listened to someone extremely good speaker who's on a, she's in a different place than us. She's in Austin, so obviously there's much more money tied up in it and many other things. Although they have great challenges in Austin. Okay, like there's a lot of homelessness in Austin. It's very evident. But the idea of a housing summit was mentioned because, and it's one thing that NACO says, the government can't do it alone. Okay, we're not going to solve the housing crisis alone. That's not going to happen because you need the private, you need banks to be involved in the housing summit, you need investors to be involved in the housing summit, because there could be things that the county can do on tax considerations to incentivize affordable housing. If we're talking, because there's a reason affordable housing isn't being built. There is a reason.
tell you one thing that I see would make all of this easier. This has been my issue for a really long time, is the building code. If we had the building code, we would have standards. So no matter how big or small, there would be a standard that is enforced by an inspector to say this is habitable. It is safe. It's not running sewage over the hill. It's not, people aren't running their gray water off onto the neighbor out of a pipe. Those are the things. I mean, if we just had those standards, we could then say, oh, sure, you can build. It can be any size, anywhere. But if it's safe.
Like that is what is in front of the commission. I would say it's before the revisions. This is what my opinion would be. Before the revisions, it's whether the commission wants to fund a building code inspector. That's really what's before us.
And that's
If
one of the issues I spent like a lot of hours last week. I mean, we have a lot of people disregarding our regulations right now, a lot. And people who absolutely know better, building nice houses, completely disregarding. They're not even getting permits. One of them that doesn't even have a septic permit. It's a nice house. They've not done the first thing. So I did a lot of violation type work last week and found a lot of really disturbing things on one little short drive.
Now, John, do you know how many counties in West Virginia have building inspectors?
I don't.
You don't?
Hey,
Do you know?
Greenbrier, I think Raleigh has it now. Maybe Jefferson and Berkeley. And so, and Hampshire, yeah, of course, Hampshire, yeah. There may be one more, but it's less than 10.
Less than 10 in there.
Yep. But now the towns, the cities, they almost all have it.
Right.
So anyway.
Financially, you want a contract with them, we can't afford the liability.
Got it. That would be a way to do it. It's an independent contractor. Yeah. Right. I thought it was what Hampshire does. I don't know. It could be.
They do. Yeah, they contract, and then the Middle Inspection Agency has already told us, they came to a meeting and told us they could absolutely cover this area. The main liability, Greg, is the electrical inspector, and like even Greenbrier, we had a full-time inspector. That liability is really not all that great because there's a code. As long as the inspector's doing his job, doing it right, and he has a license, so then you don't have a whole lot of liability. But that electrical inspection, that's when, and they hired that part out. So
You have to have that now. Before you get on gas.
Before you get hooked up. In all honesty, it's only for the entrance.
Right.
There's nothing beyond the meter that's required for the electric.
in the house, and we have a lot of house fires
It's only to the meter.
because of that.
From that point on, there is no requirement for power.
Inside.
To the meter.
To the meter. From that point on, there is no requirement.
Well, now, when you get them, they go inside, and your meter's not inside.
Yeah, but that is all that they really.
I know
we
you
did a
have to
lot
meet
of those.
requirements in your panel box before he'll pass.
Yeah, well,
And
that's
that-
part
So
basically.
basically, that's more than just outside of your meter.
But that is actually what we consider part of the meter, because the meter feeds that panel, but nothing beyond.
But they don't go around inside the home. I understand that part. But we would have to a certain extent, but it's not building code, I'm sure. I mean,
We have no, as far as the construction of a home, zero. And the pictures that I took of one that I found last week show that. But that's, unfortunately, we're getting a lot of that, and I'm just, our housing, the quality of our housing stock it's going way down because people are seeing our county as where they can go to build something cheap. And they don't think they have to get any permits. Surprise, but they do.
Hey, we should put this data up now. We should put that data up. If you can pull it up. This was just a little bit of interesting data from NACO. Hardy County, because they compared all counties. They
Okay.
really, so Hardy County is, well, let's find it out.
Yeah, they have that great map, the NACO, and
They
go and
do.
you do
You can go
in-
drill down into the county.
so many
Well,
different
what's
data.
interesting, we're with Berkeley County, Jefferson, and all the others because it's green. We're green, and it only comes to us. And then there's a lot of blue, which is a declining population. That's the difference between the green and blue. It's low to moderate cost, but it's also a declining population. We should be able to
Yeah, there's no shrink on that. It's either on or off.
oh.
But I had it up here a minute ago. I don't remember where it was. That isn't it. Shoot, man.
But it was population, not a housing statistic of some sort that you're looking at?
Well, Hardy County equals a low to moderate cost in homes. Like it's like 2.5 when they do the home value divided by the income. It's like 2.5 to 3, which is healthy. That's a healthy cost for someone to purchase a home, and it's also a growing population. It's actually it's a really good story. You know, that's a great place to be. Okay, we need to go to.
Steve, I'll ask you statistically though, is that income base, it's not really counting the income from the Northern Virginia area. Because that, it's not gonna show up in those statistics, and those are the people,
Because they're part-time residents.
yeah,
Yeah,
they're
it's,
part-time.
I think that it may be skewed
That's what
by
I'm
the,
thinking.
by just the way that our land is selling. And
Right.
what we also found, and we've asked NACO, we talked to a NACO representative about doing some special number crunches for us, because what we have found in our community is there is no upper level housing available. So what's happening is those that have that above average income are buying the houses and then forcing a collapse below that, so that young people starting out have no options available to them here other than what we're already talking about.
Oh, okay, yeah, just scroll down.
Something else. Somebody said, somebody coined, I forget, it might have been one of these two that said, we need another Caledonia Heights.
I believe the map's gonna come. Oh, yeah, I think we should click on view map, I believe that will, that's what we need to do, I believe. So, yeah, here's the map, it's just really a cool thing. And they drill down to the county level, and we can expand that. And see, I mean, really good news is that we're green.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a great thing. Because after that it starts blue, which designates a declining population.
Right.
So, but I do think I think you are right probably on the income. I don't think it's quite.
And that's some of the
Maybe
problem
right.
with the census data that we look at, because it's not really incorporating those non-full-time residents as part of our equation. Yeah. In a lot of capacity.
Yeah, and then
Here's the data.
Yeah, that's the data.
And a lot of that data comes from our building permits, because we turn that over every month. But we have a lot of high and a lot of low. Not a lot in between.
You were talking, I always thought you had to get a licensed electrician when you were building, and I think your banks may require that more so than maybe what some of the others.
But we don't, yeah. I mean, it's whatever. It's the power company inspection.
But as we were discussing, that really only, and when I say meter, the panel is part of that, because that's what the meter feeds. And from that point on, there is nothing.
Does the bank not require something? Because I was thinking when I built mine, and of course mine's been built for several years.
Yeah.
You want to have a licensed electrician for sure, but maybe that's not happening.
Well, you have a contractor requirement license, and within that, but it is very vague. But no, when I built mine, there was no requirement for a licensed electrician.
I wired my house in
Yeah.
Norfolk.
What?
I wired my house in Norfolk. Plumbed it, wired it.
Because some of these electricians, even though they have electrical license, they are not attaching the boxes to anything solid. Sometimes out on the outlet.
And you have the difference in the classifications. You have a journeyman plus you have a master. And there's what they can do, and I agree with that. From the insurance side, I've been in construction that's being built, and it's not only electrical, where they would take scrap tube before, 45 of them, hook them together with a nail gun and use them for interior walls. They're not solid, and there's nobody there that's seeing that. It's just, yeah, it's not a good situation in some of those construction sites.
Stephen, what you said about maybe creating the tax area, it's kind of like the tax increment financing that the state has. And the state's doing some programs now to help in areas where housing is a shortage. And I know I've gotten a call from one that is on 220. I'm just not sure of his quality because it is a higher, it's going to qualify. Because I'm not sure if it'll go into what is the workforce housing.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
And then also the town of Northville just passed the rental ordinance. So everybody will be changing if you have rental properties in the town of Northville.
Yeah, they did. It's kind of like a trend.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's gonna cost, $30 every 2 years, for an inspection.
I think that's what it is. I think sounds right.
It's another inspection fee.
And also you're gonna have to do fire. I mean, there's a lot of
Yes.
things that are involved. I mean, hopefully they'll work with everyone to be able to get those areas met. But it's pretty, can be very costly.
Well, it's going to cut down on the number of rental units too.
Yeah, it will. As a matter of fact, I thought the one that was being built over in the parking lot across from the laundromat was gonna be off, but I see that they're tearing up the asphalt, so I assume that was moving forward.
And we do have housing projects underway, and of course, seen the equipment. Greg drives past it almost every day. The 14 units for ag workers there by the stockyards between Maple and the stockyards they're breaking ground. The 20 unit senior living apartments is now in the hands of HUD, but by October they expect to be moving ground on that, and that's between Maple and the bus parking lot there on the we looked up the name of the property. Heinzman, the Heinzman property that's been sold to Community Action and, oh shucks, who was the other one? Anyway, those are others which are a step in the right direction, but they're not going to answer our overall housing needs going forward in the next 10 years.
I think the population we were talking about, the young couples, and I mean, most of them that we see, granddad gave them a couple acres, and they use that and they borrow in their building.
And those houses that you just referenced, though, are they not somewhat tied to the income-based eligibility?
The Maplewood project, which I'm very closely associated with as a part of the county commission on representing them on community action. All you have to do, it is subsidized, but one of the requirements is that you must have a paycheck from an agricultural entity. And then there is a subsidy that goes along with that. And there are 6 3-bedroom units and 8 2-bedroom units that'll be a part of that.
The senior citizen part will be subsidized too.
Senior citizen part is a subsidized project as well, and it'll be 20 units. It'll be a 2-story, but possibly, for those that are able to continue to live independently and possibly have lost a spouse or something like that, that a 1-bedroom unit would be all they need. May free up some other housing from elsewhere, and then allow maybe some affordable opportunities for some of our manufacturing or workforce type jobs that we have course, housing is a huge point of discussion that we hope to maybe get some more information on with the proposed housing summit. That was one of our takeaways from the NACO conference this year, is to come back home and invite those people to come to the table. And
It'll be invitation only.
yeah, it'd be an invitation kind
Something
of
where, you're invited to.
builders,
It's not really open to the
bankers.
public.
But you wanna get some of your developers, people
Develop,
building houses.
Absolutely.
Yes, yes.
And possible investors
Investors.
in the project as well.
Well, we all know that diversification, being able to get the workforce and be able to diversify the type of employment we have is based on the workforce. And if we don't find housing to increase the workforce, we're not going to be able to diversify the job opportunities
That's
in
it.
the area.
That's it. Nail on the head. Yeah, you hit it right there. You know, one of the other things that was a point of discussion, and since we've kind of gravitated to that, I'll bring that up as well at this point, is just for a moment, think, what is your idea as an individual of the American dream? That was a question that one of the moderators of the panels asked the group. What's your picture of the American dream? My picture of the American dream is one thing. Your picture of the American dream is something else. And young people today, their picture of the American dream may be entirely different from each and every one of us sitting here in the room who already recognize the differences that we see as our American dream. And so we need to think about all of those parts of our community and help all of them to achieve their part of the American dream. Now, that's pretty much quote what we heard from the moderator before we started hearing from some of the other panelists. But that's it. That kind of set the stage for the discussion that day, and that kind of piqued our interest in bringing that back home here to have that discussion, because that's not something that's going to be next year. That's going to be something that's 10 years, 20 years, 30 years down the road, when maybe a few of us in this room aren't here anymore. But we can lay the groundwork now to help direct our community in that direction, which is what we do with planning and zoning.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I was just
It's-
thinking when
it's
you
absolutely
said that,
we
I
are.
thought of something that happened yesterday, which made me think, what we have to deal with is when, my American dream is very different than yours, and we have adjacent property lines.
Bingo.
I mean,
That's it.
It was
Even though you both may have different total dreams, there's a lot of similarities and commonalities within those. And that's a starting point.
Yeah, exactly. Gotta
But
build on
we
those.
have to communicate.
Right.
Unity. Mally, is there anything else you want to share real quick on the health department or?
We have a 90-day bid hold, and right now USDA, which is a key funding component to the project, is reviewing it, and they have to give us authorization for us to proceed.
Okay.
But yes,
And the state money is ready.
it's my understanding, according to Mr. Hours, that it is ready whenever we are
Call
able to award the bid.
Okay.
So hopefully within the next 60 days, we'll be able to award it,
Okay.
because we've already sent that right after our last meeting.
Wonderful. And thank you for all your help with that. And we did have a few little
Glitches.
hiccups along the way, but overall, we're like I say, thank you for your help in helping move that forward. That was
Absolutely, we're a team, and together we get a lot of things done.
unity.
Yes,
There you go.
absolutely. All right, thank you. See you all later.
Thank you.
Take care. Good to see you.
All right, do we want to just kind of continue that discussion on the housing summit and go from there? See you, Paul. See you, Paul. Yep. Wish I brought my copy of the book and the other part.
I'm gonna try to keep it in here.
Yeah, I've got mine at home sitting by my chair. One of the takeaways from the meeting in Austin, Texas, was housing, and that's one that we attended kind of hear what others were dealing with. And as we sat and listened, we saw some things that were directly related to our own situation. And NACO has at least given as food for thought about 25 recommendations, or at least 25 points to move forward. They, of course, summarized them under 5, but there are about 25 or so different types of things that they put forward. And I think examining those in our local community would be very beneficial to us in looking ahead to the future for particularly housing. I think we all realize that that's an issue, and it's something that it may be different from what we have as a vision. It's going to be a mix, I think. Kind of as my eyes have been opened and I've looked at the expanded version, it may be a mix of single family dwellings as well as smaller, maybe duplex, triplex kinds of houses, possibly townhomes, and yes, apartment type units. All kind of in the community, which have not been here so much before. Pilgrims is moving forward with their 168 units, and the impact that that may have on other housing is probably going to be readily seen when those folks that are their employees move out of the rental units that they're in currently and go to that complex there. And so that may free up some more affordable housing elsewhere if it can be, again, afforded by our workforce.
Well, okay, and some interesting things that we talked about, the reasons for the current housing costs in your community. Construction costs, which we're dealing with. Lack of senior housing, we've already talked about that. Interesting thing that was said there, this was on July 23rd, closing the affordable housing gap. The cost of regulation equals 40.6% of development. And they cite who that's from. I don't think that's the case in Hardy County.
Well, no, because we don't have building inspection
$100,
inspectors.
I don't think that's gonna break it.
They don't have to be on site 3 times.
Yeah, I think maybe that's Austin, but not Hardy. Yeah,
It was a little more expensive in Austin.
a little more. Well, things you can do: create incentives and reduce risks. Host an affordable housing summit, which we're doing. Gap financing is very important. That's where the government can step in. Like there's going to be a place where the developer wants to go, the developer will go to such and such a place. But gap financing is a key part of this. Another part of it though is developers want to build further out. Like developers and there's no infrastructure there. So pressure has to be put on the developer to cover some cost of infrastructure if they're wanting to build further out. There are other things that come up, like balance consideration, like raising and lowering the mill rate, the tax rate of tax policy with housing affordability. That's something that was mentioned here, things that government, even county governments need to be thinking about. And then one of the key determinants of health is housing. What about the ability of a county to enact a sales tax? That was brought up. So a lot of very important things we need to think about, and that the housing summit will get us started, like because it is a very important thing.
Recently, I read it, I think it was on Facebook, that Virginia adopted a statewide law, anything over $1,000, you have to use a licensed contractor, and you can be fined and everything else if you don't.
Okay.
I just read that within the last month. And it wasn't county, it was statewide.
Okay.
Look at that one.
And that's for the $1,000 value or more.
That's not much.
No.
No.
Not anymore.
One thing
to bring up that you mentioned
Okay.
the sales tax.
Yeah.
There is talk about making the car tax rebate permanent. So coming back and passing a constitutional amendment for people to vote on whether or not they want the car tax removed totally, which is what one of the things we were suggesting when we started down this road several years ago. Why do you want to go after $550, $600 million at least, or not be more, when you can just focus on a constitutional amount of car tax, which is approximately 140, 150 million tops, which yes, the counties, we would be out there, but it's something that it's a lot more digestible than losing $600-700 million. So I think they are looking and maybe doing a constitutional amendment on the car tax by itself. So what's the trade-off there? What can we get in return? Maybe some kind of graduated sales tax or something that might help alleviate that. Or I would prefer that we'd be able to have something that gives us a mechanism to raise a little bit more revenue and things instead of just being revenue neutral that helps on things like housing or whatever it might be. But that's something that I think we need to think about as far as the horse trading that's going to go on if they go forward with an amendment like that.
Yeah.
Just on that.
One of the interesting sessions that I attended, Wisconsin executive director of their association of counties was there. You may know
Mark,
him. Yeah, and somehow over the course of about a 10-year time period, the association of counties drove home a bill that gives 1 cent of the state sales tax back to local government. So 5 cents sales tax, 1 cent of that sales tax comes back to the counties. I don't know how they did that, but it piqued my interest as a source of revenue for doing county projects.
From a planning perspective, I've talked to counties similar to our socioeconomics and development patterns, and in other states where they tax second homes at a much higher rate, they are rolling in the money for this kind of stuff. Like,
That would be something we need in Hardy County, be able to tax the second home.
Greenbrier and some of these counties.
That would be.
Yeah, I mean, not to pick on the out-of-staters, but it's just like we talked a couple years ago, they had the amusement tax, like skiers, they go to Maine or whatever. By and large, those are not in-state residents. There are some, but they were so scared to do anything like they called it. Oh, it's a fun tax. It's a fun tax. Yeah, I mean, PR-wise, that just torpedoes it right away. But we don't do enough, I think, to take advantage of out-of-state travelers, visitors, vacation, whatever it might be, or in your case, people with second homes coming in that they want to live here, but why are they coming here? Because quality of life issue and things like that. Well, they should maybe pay up a little bit more than what they do.
And they think it's low. I mean,
You're right, exactly.
Whoa, is that low? They would be more than willing to not even phase them to raise it.
So I think there's a lot of things to go into. So not to switch gears, but another thing that's popping up. We just went through this whole period, and now we've got this statewide commission on the opioid settlements and that. Well, the next thing you're going to see are these class action lawsuits on the PFAS, the polyfluorocarbon, and the plastics in the water supply, and things like that, and what should be done there. So that's coming down the pike, because that's something that as a county you want to jump on as far as your own thing, or do that or not. When you talk about Mark in Wisconsin, they did that. They headed that in Wisconsin on behalf of the association. We didn't. That was before my time. We didn't do that. Didn't touch it. And there's always some kind of hesitance. I'm not saying good or bad, but I'm just saying that's coming down the pike too. We did talk about in our executive meeting that's coming along, and maybe some other things too. So I don't know if that's an issue here so much, but my understanding is it's pretty much ubiquitous.
Yes.
So.
And we've gotten reports on where we are with it.
Yes. Yeah. We do have the issue here.
We do. Yeah. That would be something we would want to be part of it, or I don't know if we want to lead the way, but we'll definitely follow up on it.
Yeah.
Follow what's going to happen with that, because that does make sense that would be the next.
It's going to be an ongoing issue.
Yeah.
No question. All righty, well, like I say, that, we're gonna continue to explore this and, and continue to work on that and report back as time goes on. Wendy, I got county coordinator and commissioners following up on funding possibilities implementing the bipartisan infrastructure law. You wanna lead that discussion? Well, again, another one of those things that we attended at NACO was the information on the bipartisan infrastructure law and the funding opportunities and the projects or monies that are available for projects in the counties. And we need to take advantage of that. And we heard several success stories. Of course, they were many of the ones that were right at the top in the fat of that BIL. But there are some other ones, some lesser talked about opportunities that are in there. And going forward, we want to look at those opportunities because there are parts of our community that would be very well served by some of those grant opportunities available through the BIL. And we look for the ones that deal with, we put the blinders on. We look for the ones that deal with planning, zoning, growth issues, and we look at the ones that address housing. We look at the ones that address water projects. But there are many, many more opportunities in that law that, again, was passed that we need to look at, and we're going to continue to look for those. But as folks maybe stumble across those in their search for something else, if you see one that looks like it might be appropriate for our county, certainly put that forward so that we can examine that further because there's so many things in that. And we heard from a group of panelists that were sharing just a few, but alluded to a whole lot more. And you come back from these conferences full of excitement about the opportunities that are out there, and then it kind of becomes just a little bit overwhelming when you look at all the directions that you can go. But we continue to try to be on top of those things, and we'll continue to look for those opportunities going forward. But if you stumble across something, let us know.
And something I wanted to mention on it is the reason I sent the notes out because you have the energy efficient community building.
That's
grant.
it.
Did you see anything on it?
I'm sorry.
There's the energy efficiency community building grant. We could be past where we could be, but that one was a flexible one. That's why I thought it was really important.
Okay.
Like it was a flexible one, and because you could fund electric car charging centers, replacing street lights that are energy efficient. You could also apply for a voucher to do like if you don't have the project ready, you could apply for a voucher to do a study about whether it's needed. Like so, it's like there's things.
We need a car charging station in Peru.
Desperately.
I mean, it's coming. We need it.
Yeah. Well, and then I mean they even mentioned some things like you should highlight equity in your application, and 40% of the money needs to go to disadvantaged communities. And I think we could highlight that. There's a lot of diversity in Hardy County, and we absolutely can highlight that. They talked about we need to identify someone to help with the grant writing process, but also if we're not eligible for the funding to come directly to the county. You engage the state because 60% of the state funds have to come to counties.
Right.
And that one is one that just stuck out to me. It's like would be one because we can't get all of it. You can't. But there's certain ones when they're being mentioned, you're like, man, there's some flexibility, and maybe we can get that one. That was because they covered the broadband, they covered energy, and they covered EPA. And I thought that with the EPA, that was all because that was having to do with water, and that could be one where we can make some progress.
And piggyback with the PFAS thing too.
And because they mentioned that emerging contaminants, special funding is available for this.
And this is something that our TSD is not, even with the rate hike, is not necessarily able shoulder the whole burden of the cost. But yeah, lots of things to think about
There are lots of them. Yeah.
there. Anything you wanted to add to that? Or?
No, I think we all covered most of it. Good work.
All right. Heather's coming this afternoon, so we'll pass that one. Security guards, protective vests, and insurance. That was,
Well, yeah, that was something that was brought up to me. Thank you, Commissioner Workman, for bringing that up as part of the agenda. I think that when the insurance, that one is one, certainly not in this meeting, we're gonna be able to think about because our security guards aren't full-time employees and for our, the PEIA insurance. So that is not one we can make a decision on. If perhaps there's something available, but we'll need to, that one, that's where that one is right now. They're not eligible. The security guards though are asking about protective vests. And I think, it's something I think it's legitimate for them to be asking about it and it's why I requested it be put on the agenda.
To allude to that, I talked to Sheriff Dawson on Friday, and one particular security guard who also is on the process serving now. Sheriff was going to get with JT yesterday. I haven't heard if he did or not to see if we had Officer Manning to leave, and they were thinking that his vest could possibly fit the one process server. So I don't know if they worked anything out with that or not. And I also did tell Sheriff, I kind of just informed him of what was going on so he wouldn't be blindsided. We still have the money available. We have like $1,200 available from the past grant from the Patrick Leahy, which I have also applied for a new grant funding for new vests. Still don't know anything. We just applied for that last month. So, but Sheriff is aware. He said he had money in his budget, but he wasn't too worried about it right now because it's the beginning of budget season. So I think it's just a matter of us sitting down with the sheriff and figuring out, what he has and, available and what we would need to order. And we, like I said, have the $1,200 still available that we have to use by the end of this month. I think it was August 31st is when we have to expend all that money.
1,200.
like I say, obviously the safety of those that come to the courthouse and certainly those that are responsible for ingress and egress of individuals coming and going. I think they should obviously have the protection afforded by vests because some of the decisions and some of the things that happen here in the courthouse are life-changing for individuals, and we know that violence can be ugly.
I just heard of there was a fight that had broken out. I think it was in Clay County last week, and they had a display case of their trophies and awards, and it shattered. I don't know if someone got thrown into it or anything got thrown into it, but the case actually broke due to the fight. So, I mean.
Well, certainly, I would, I don't know if we need a motion at this point to, pursue finding grants or resources to provide our security details here in the courthouse with protective vests. But I certainly think we ought to explore this aggressively to make sure we've got that.
I think we should make sure we have Steve Dawson involved.
Yeah, and involve Steve in that discussion for sure.
And Steve will be able to spend that 1,200, right? Steve, he will be able to spend it like he's one. Okay.
Yeah, it's available. Like I said, it's been available from the past grant. All the money the money weren't held from it. So, and we have to do something with it. And that I don't know if it will or not. But if we don't use that money, that could affect later grant funding. If they say, oh, well, you had $1,200 that you didn't use, and you're applying for this, we need to make sure that we expend all that money. Yeah.
Is it for protective vest?
Yeah, it's called Patrick Leahy bulletproof vest. How do was an initiative, I can't remember what the last word was, but that is exactly what it is. You can apply for funding. It's like an every other year grant. You can
Okay.
apply for funding.
You know what one cost, was 800.
They're right at almost 1,000, and I can't remember, they just got one in which he wanted a little bit better.
They have like a life expectancy or shelf life.
They have an
have to
expiration,
read.
they have an expiration, and that's where we're running into our deputies now, because the best that most of our not most of them, but I would say probably a quarter of them have now, they were bought on that Patrick Lake grant, or a grant of something like that, that was before me. So they are expiring, so we definitely need to get, yeah, and I've been talking with JT about that, so we both are aware, I have the expiration date also of the deputies that he has given me.
Well, I'd entertain a motion that we move forward with this to expend that, existing money and to look for other monies for secure vests for our guards and also to get those outdated vests replaced.
I'll make a motion. So moved.
All right, moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, 3 ayes, the ayes have it. Wendy, add that to your list.
Got it.
All righty, and it's up to you with some information.
Yeah.
You want to come and sit before the camera,
Yeah.
please? Jim, do you need a moment on the agenda?
No, I just, this point when you hit the signal, I people in the office where you get lazy. Anyway, all right, thank you.
All right.
It's the time of year to renew our pro-officer grants for, 2 of our officers that are in schools. We have, Austin Riggleman that's at the local high school. He is kind of, I guess, basically shared on this side of the county. I mean, he would go to the other side of the county too if necessary, but primarily he's housed out of the high school. And we have, a grant, we don't have a grant for him, excuse me, but we do have a grant for Deputy Shipe, which is, our person over at East Hardy. And we have 2 contracts that we need to have signed, by Dave and the sheriff to enter into the agreement to, for the, Board of Education to pay what the salaries that we've agreed upon. To give you that, the amount for the one at, let me see if she's listed. The one for, East Hardy, which is Deputy Shipe, the board agrees to pay the lump sum payment of $18,600. And then, the grant that we apply for through the JAG program, they pick up the remainder of, his salary, or they're close to it. And we've applied, that application is being released actually this month. So we'll be applying for that grant for him. I did, just because, I have a daughter that was at the middle school last year. I talked to Austin, because I see him more often, and just ask him, and this is something that we'd have to talk to the sheriff, but just an idea that I just, thought, the kids at the middle school last year, I think there was a lot of behavioral issues, just from what I've heard with, different parents and being involved with some school activities with my daughter. I asked Austin what his thoughts were about possibly getting another officer. And he said that would be a tremendous help because he's busy at the high school and he tries to split up his time, but we know that age group at the middle school is a very hard age with a lot of lifestyle changes and a lot of things going on. I did talk to Aaron Hamilton, the gentleman that takes care of the JAG program, and he said that, we could apply for how many ever we needed.
Okay.
It's, we have to obviously, collaborate with the sheriff. That's gonna pull a deputy possibly away from his force, and we just heard this morning that he's kind of at a shortfall right now with, not receiving any applicants. So there is a need, yes, and I think that we really should sit down with the sheriff and see, before we enter the complete grant process, should we apply for the funding for possibly at least half of the funding for another one, if he would wanna do so. That's just an idea that, possibly, anything that we could do to make our school system safer and a little bit less destructive.
Let's watch the deadline on that, so we don't miss one.
Yeah.
But if we need to have that discussion with him, we'll go ahead and set up that meeting, and we'll have that discussion for sure, because that's a very important role in the schools, I think.
I know that Austin has done a remarkable job, just from what I've been hearing, at the high school level. He's really,
Maybe we should try to set up a meeting, because we gotta, but there's an answer to spending the money to handle it, it might be something we want to talk to them about.
Okay.
So we set up like a special meeting for that.
I think that'd be a good idea.
Let's do it.
Have you been communicating with the schools on it?
With Sheena, not with the schools directly, but with the,
Yeah, that's what I
Sheena,
meant, the school, and, with Sarah, Sarah and,
Yeah, she's actually in the
yes,
financial department.
Yes.
So
yeah.
between Sarah and Sheena, we have a really good working relationship with each other. So there's
Well, you don't know how big, that is a, good thing. I'll just say that, it's a good
Yeah.
thing. Because they're open to this other pro officer?
I have not really said much to them about that yet. I did talk to Melvin about it. And that was a discussion, and, he said that he could mention something at the Board of Education, so, ultimately, we could invite them or, get their thoughts, but I just know that
Check
Austin
with the
is,
sheriff first.
yeah, that's where
Let's
I
have
think
that
that
discussion.
Yeah, because there would have to be another person hired
There
for the
would be.
position.
I got one that day.
And he only has one
Yeah.
app, so it's definitely part of the consideration, no
Right.
question.
And that's why I said I didn't want to say, anything to move forward, saying we're going to apply for this, particular grant without talking to him.
What's our deadline?
It's at the end of August, so I think it's like August, it's either the 28th or the 30th, I can't remember, but
So we need to,
set something
Set a
up.
special meeting.
yeah, we need to get that done so it can be done in a timely fashion. Any days jumping out? Next week is not good for me. And then
Okay.
auditor training's the next week.
So I think maybe,
That's it.
it's
Did we
unbelievably
have one already?
busy this week. What about sometime
On the 22nd? I gotta move my calendar.
Yeah,
Oh,
we were gonna be
yeah,
here.
we
in
have
the
a county
States.
commission special meeting on the 22nd.
So,
We
we
can do that.
just do it the same
Will that
day.
give you enough time to get the grants pulled together if it's a go?
All
Or?
I need to do is just get the dollar amount of, if we're going to do that. I mean, everything else is pretty much done, so.
Will that give
So
you
we can
enough
get it
time?
on the 22nd, we'll just do it, that'll be on the
All right.
agenda for that meeting. We can have it on the 22nd.
Issue, I gotta move down 10:30 on the
I got, 10:30.
To, I guess, have discussions on but you're already going to know by this time, right? So we're just going to approve it, we're just going to approve the funding,
The state
pro officer.
I just need to get permission
Oh, that one.
if we want
These
to
are-
apply for additional funding. Because we're already gonna put the grant in for,
Okay,
Earlier
okay.
or later?
It'll be for additional funding, approval for this additional funding for pro officer.
Do you want to come in earlier, or we're scheduled for 10:30 now? Do you want to come at 10?
That's good with me.
10 o'clock? Do for you? All right. Okay.
And do it at the lunch meeting with him, because he might say, look, I don't have anybody.
Okay. All right.
You know?
And then we wouldn't have to
I'm
stall
afraid
it
that's
any
what he's
longer.
gonna say, look to you, but I don't have anybody.
Yeah, so it wouldn't stall it any further.
We'll pull somebody off this.
the road, and that's
Off the road,
something that he's not.
I would-
But also we need to talk to the sheriff, and I mean, if we can talk to him about that today, about the vests.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
like I said, I mentioned that to the sheriff last Friday.
He won't have trouble with that.
All right, we just need to get with him and tell him we're gonna put him back on the hot seat this afternoon.
Yeah, I think, that's what I'm afraid of. Then if later he gets somebody else that he hires, find somebody to do that.
Okay, good. Sounds good. Good.
Down to take some money.
All righty.
All right, and then, what the Board of Education agrees to pay us for the 23-24 for Milford High School, they'll be paying us $45,000 for that. We didn't get that covered yet.
Do we need a motion on that one?
No, I just want, I guess you'll need a motion to sign to enter the contract,
Okay,
to sign the
if
contract.
it's approved.
Yes.
Okay.
And then, like I said, I believe no, it's actually just the sheriff and Sheila's signatures. This is the ones that need that. But we wanted to bring it up before the
Yes.
commission. The next thing that I have is, the resolution to apply for the Stanton Canine Grant. And this grant became available, we have until the 18th of August to apply for this particular grant. It says the Stanton Foundation is providing an opportunity for a capital improvement grant to the following: government animal services, brick and mortar facility operated by municipal or county government to provide animal sheltering services to citizens of specific counties, or communities. The grant is for $250,000, will be dispersed through the FOHO, which is the Federal Office of Humane Organizations. The eligible organizations are not to exceed $30,000 per grant. An application deadline is August 18th. So I know that we're having some issues, and this may be a helpful to add on or to possibly do something else with our dog pound as far as moving forward.
Any
But I'll
thoughts?
have you to sign.
Maybe we should recommend that to the town, build their own.
I think we should, approve, make a resolution for approval to apply for that for sure. Okay.
See, make a motion.
You're gonna make that form okay motion. It's been properly moved and seconded. We go ahead and apply for the Stanton Canine Grant, in the amount of maximum $30,000 for, help in resolving, canine dog pound issues, or stray animal, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Three ayes. The ayes have it. Motion carries.
And we got word, just the other day that we received an award for a grant for $5,940 for, the Hardy County Commission for the July 4th Festival. It's through the Division of Arts, Culture, and History budget. And the funding, it becomes available on July the 1st, and we have to expend all of those monies by June 30th of 2024. So I'm going to go to the Lions Club meeting, next Monday and present them and let them know, which I did tell one of the Lions members, and they invited us to go to the dinner, and they have a meeting and dinner, and to let them know about The,
What do you do then that now? What do you have at dinner that now? You stood up to the boards. Oh, no.
so if any of you all wanna come, let me know, and I'll go.
And then Monday, you think?
It's next Monday. Next Monday at 6.
Certainly won't let you.
They'll probably even put you on the committee or put you to work somewhere, I bet.
Yeah.
I don't know.
If I line up to do chicken.
Oh, they might very well could,
You
absolutely.
already get the text.
Or sell
Make sure they get
brooms
us
or
out there for
mops or
chicken.
something, right?
It's fine.
Good deal.
Absolutely. But yes, so end of that on a good note. So
We appreciate it.
Thank you, Wendy.
absolutely.
All right, Clerk Ely.
Yes, sir. I have a motion to have no orders or objections to that step.
Oh,
That's why that was blank, but I'll leave it there. So don't have to blank it. Motion to dismiss Mary Elizabeth Kidwiller as administrator of the state of Savannah Elizabeth Ann Hayes. Miss Kidwiller did do proper, she requested to be dismissed, and she did an accounting due date. The money's tied up. Evidently, there's a minor involved because all the notices, well, there is a minor involved. All the notices that we're going to send that she's going out is going to the DHHR. It's because it'll be a while. She can't do anything with any funds until the minor becomes of age, and she said she probably won't. She's the elder baby, so she'll bring things to count, and then somebody else will deal with it later. When they come of age.
I'd entertain a motion to that effect.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. 3 ayes, the ayes have it.
And I did receive, I want to do a legal defense fund for planning, set up that checking account.
You got them done?
I want to. I gotta do an order for you, so I need to get approval of both the date and stuff.
I thought we done that last week.
No, that was something else.
You need, I'll make a motion that we approve the account for the legal defense fund for the planning commission.
That was,
But then we done two at the same time.
Yeah,
see,
you
that
did
was,
do that.
that was two funds I had.
But you did, one of them was the license for the planning that you did
I
that.
think we did
Well,
too.
we'll do it again.
It doesn't hurt.
It don't matter.
All right, I'd entertain a motion. Okay, you've got the motion.
Yeah.
You got the second, just in case we didn't get it done the last time. All right. Any discussion?
Yes. I did have discussion on this. So there could be a case, the planning commission applies for a budget, they get approved for the budget. There could be money left over in the budget. Is it okay for the planning commission to assume if they do, that money that they didn't use as part of their budget can be put in this legal defense fund?
That's totally up to the commission, because the money rolls back into the general county pocket.
Okay.
Budgeted it out for the following year.
Sure, right.
Totally up to you.
Well, I don't know if it needs to roll over into that legal account, because we can always make a budget revision and add to it at any given time.
You would rather us just
I believe.
allocate it in the
as
budget
is,
rather than roll it,
and-
okay.
and instead of rolling it into that. Because once you roll it into that, you can take it out of there and then you use
That's
it.
true, that's true. Yes.
Yeah, it's stuff.
Yeah.
Whatever's in there is stuff.
And we can always add to it.
But we do have that account that can be used to hold monies that are contributed to the legal defense fund for the planning commission.
Can I ask you a question? What, is there any money to put in that fund as a beginning now?
I was thinking all around.
Okay.
Thinking all around.
If not, then there is money within the previous budget for the planning for legal defense for actual utilization for consulting.
Oh, that money's cool.
Is it going?
All in the pot. It's probably new money.
Yeah, this discussion came as a result of a recent action, situation that occurred in the county, and people desired to make a contribution to help with this fight or battle if it went that far. And so that was the reason for creating the account.
Yeah. We need to.
No, I think we're probably gonna, one of the things that we discussed, that we really need to be real careful that we don't earmark those donations for statistics.
Right.
Yes.
Then again, I know that we're supposed to have a committee meeting to discuss that.
Yeah.
So we wanna make sure that we're very general with those contributions, so that we don't, find that they're committed to a cause that no longer exists.
Right.
As in,
Right.
Yes, yeah, and then it could be over, and then we just have money tied up there.
right.
And there's also the other part, when we had this meeting, I just want to make the commission aware of it, okay? Because when we had this meeting on this fund, okay, there's gonna be someone set up. Mail call.
I wasn't sure we were supposed to run.
I wasn't getting excited because we hear that quite often.
Electronic funds.
Hello.
Electronic
Okay,
funds.
how are you?
Yes.
Okay, so somebody has to be set up to set that up. It's just something, it's just something we wanna make people aware of.
Greg, on this legal defense thing, do we have someone set up to receive the electronic transfers?
We have electronic setup, electronic fund transfers for each office, right? Or we have a way of accepting some cards at least.
Cards.
So we have a way of accepting
Planning.
cards. Planning also does it? Does? Well, because what I'm looking at, like, we have to have a link there. We need a link on the planning commission's webpage so people can fund this. And that's something to think about. Because who's it going to be? Because they're going to have access, they have to have access to it. It's just something that will come up. And I don't know for sure.
I don't know how that would be set up.
I think it should be someone,
We
like,
can do that, that's not.
it's not an issue, right? It
No.
won't be an issue. Okay.
Yeah, we just made it clear to them that when they donate to it, they couldn't specify a project.
Yeah.
It'd
I
go
think
into a
maybe.
general pot to be used for any legal necessary legal defense.
Yeah, we got that.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Okay.
We could do that.
Okay.
Matt, we can set that up.
Then probably some kind of clarification should also be present there on that, you know, this money will stay in this fund for use for other,
Like a disclaimer.
yeah, you know, while you may be contributing for one issue, that money will remain there for future issues. It may, if you choose to contribute, that money will be left there for future, use.
Sure.
In other areas.
Right.
So that folks know, you know, I may be giving for, you know, the windmill,
We might
yeah,
spend it on something else.
but it could be used for something completely unrelated. That would be something the planning commission would be up against. All right.
Two more things I have, and I wasn't really going to just info. This is my new deputy clerk. This is Beverly Berg.
Welcome.
She started yesterday. Yep. Got a good training yesterday. Took in over 14,000. We had 30-some recordings yesterday, so she was busy.
Good, yeah. That's how I like it.
Good.
Yeah. So, thank you.
Glad to have you with us.
Thank you.
And the sheriff did his, met his goals. Tammy brought that to me yesterday. Tammy Davey. On the tax collection.
Yes.
On 11A/117, he's entitled to commission on current year taxes. That's 15,000. And that's by code, but we always ask the commissioner to sign off.
Entertain a motion to that. Second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Three ayes, the ayes have it. Motion carries.
Yeah, technically it's not on
We'll be talking about the dogs later on. So at this time, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the July 5th meeting that have been previously submitted to us electronically, and the July 18th special meeting. Also the exoneration, settlements, consolidations, orders, payroll register, which for this month is in the amount of, for July 1 through July 15th, $106,143.85, and for July 16th through July 30th, $110,974.61. Also, the clerk's report of wills administered and executors appointed, the clerk's report of administrators, curators, and committees appointed, all those contained in Exhibit A1. Is there a motion to that effect? Second. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Three ayes, the ayes have it. Motion for the minutes. All those other things is approved. The farmland preservation value is $13,433.20. The jail bill, that one has not been received. Not been received.
I didn't talk about that, but I just keep us up to date to make sure if you're saving money or losing money.
Yep. Cost. Our next regularly scheduled meeting, for those that may be interested, is scheduled for September the 5th. And the special meeting on the 22nd has been scheduled and will be advertised accordingly for estates and any further action that we may have on the sheriff's request for vests and pro officers. Is there any other business that needs to come before the county commission before we take a recess for lunch? I'd entertain a motion that we go into recess until 1 p.m.
I'll make that.
Second. Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Three ayes. The ayes have it. We are in recess.
I think I'm